Okay, so you're here, and that probably means you're someone who wants to get smarter, like faster, like right now, without getting totally overwhelmed with information.
Yeah, who doesn't, right?
Right. So that's what we're all about here, cutting through the noise. And today we're going deep on this YouTube video. It's called "This Banned Brain Hack Can Make You Smarter Than Any Genius." It's from the Quantum Wisdom channel. Have you seen this one?
Oh, yeah. This one's making the rounds. It's definitely got people talking. And, it throws out this really interesting idea that there's this hidden technique, like a banned brain hack, that like these elite thinkers, they've been using it and keeping it secret.
Ooh, a secret society of geniuses.
Right. So what we're going to do in this deep dive is really unpack these claims, using what the video itself says, and we'll see what makes sense, what maybe needs a little more digging, and, most importantly, what you can actually take away from this whole thing about what intelligence really is.
I love that, because the big idea here is that intelligence, it's not just this fixed thing you're born with. Like, it's something you can actually develop.
Yeah. Right? It's like a muscle, you can train it.
Exactly. So the video starts off, and they're tackling this concept of what they call the intelligence lie. And they're saying that, we've been taught that intelligence is this static thing, almost like your eye color. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah, like you're just stuck with what you got.
Exactly. And they point to how schools label students, right?
Right.
Like you're in the gifted program or you're not. And there's this feeling that your brain power, it's all down to genetics, like winning some kind of lottery.
The genetic lottery.
Yeah. And it really gets you thinking, like, how much does that affect how we see our own potential?
It does. It definitely has an impact, right? Like this idea of fixed intelligence has been around for a while. But what's interesting is how the video immediately pushes back on that. They're saying that our brains are actually incredibly adaptable. Like they're constantly changing and rewiring themselves based on our existence.
That makes sense. I mean, think about learning a new language. Your brain physically changes as you make those new connections.
Exactly. New pathways are forming all the time.
Right. And they take it even further. They're suggesting that the reason most people don't reach this, genius level, it's not because they're not capable, it's because they haven't learned the right techniques.
Like they're missing the instruction manual.
Right. And they name drop all these big names, Da Vinci, Tesla, Einstein. They're saying these guys weren't just born brilliant. They were using some kind of secret mental framework.
Ooh, I like that secret mental framework.
Right. And the video calls this the shocking part, that anyone could have this level of brain power if they just knew the secret.
Okay, so now we're getting into conspiracy theory territory.
I know, right? But it is kind of a cool idea that maybe we've all got this potential just waiting to be unlocked.
Yeah, like we've all got the hardware, but we're missing the software.
Okay, so let's talk about this secret mental framework. They call it the mental alchemy hack. And they say, forget memorizing tons of facts. This is about completely changing how your brain processes information.
Like rewiring the circuits.
Right. They're saying it's like a kind of mental alchemy where you train your brain to think in pattern instead of just remembering isolated bits of information.
So it's about seeing the connections between things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they contrast this with how we usually learn, right? Very linear, one subject at a time.
Yeah, like math, then history, then science.
Exactly. And they're saying these genius level thinkers, they were different. They were connecting ideas across all kinds of fields. What's that word? Polymathy, yeah. Like Da Vinci, he was a painter, a sculptor, an architect, a musician, a scientist, an inventor. Like the guy did it all.
He was the ultimate Renaissance man.
And they're saying his brilliance came from seeing how all these different areas connected to each other.
It's like cross-pollination of ideas.
Exactly. So how do they say we do this? Well, they talk about visualization, running these mental simulations, even tapping into your subconscious to solve problems.
Whoa, subconscious problem solving.
Right. Like these geniuses weren't just passively taking in information. They were using their imagination, their intuition in this much more holistic way.
Yeah. So they're actively engaging with the information.
Yes. And they're saying this allows them to spot these connections that other people miss, and they come up with these insights that seem almost supernatural.
Like they're pulling ideas out of thin air.
Yeah. And, sometimes just stepping back and letting your mind wander and make those random connections, that's where the breakthroughs happen.
Like that story about Kekulé and the benzene ring. He dreamt of a snake biting its own tail and bam, he figured out the structure.
Exactly. And the video is saying we can actually learn to do that kind of thinking more deliberately.
So it's a skill you can develop.
Right. Okay, so now the big question, how do we activate this hidden brain power? And spoiler alert, they're not huge fans of the traditional education system.
Yo, here we go.
They're saying it trains us to think inside the box, and it actually suppresses the very things that make geniuses like creativity and intuition and this nonlinear way of thinking.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, standardized tests and rigid curriculums, they don't exactly encourage out-of-the-box thinking.
Right. So how do we break free? They give us some specific techniques. The first one is stop thinking in a straight line.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Instead, they say, look for those hidden connections between things. Think in webs, not lines. Because everything is connected in some way.
It's like that butterfly effect, right? Everything is interconnected.
Exactly. You're training your brain to see those relationships.
And the more connections you make, the richer your understanding becomes.
Right. Then they introduced this idea of reverse learning.
Reverse learning.
Yeah. Instead of just absorbing information, you break it down and ask, how does this connect to something totally different?
That's interesting. So you're actively trying to find those unexpected links.
Right. And they say this forces your brain to create new pathways, even between things that seem completely unrelated.
So you're kind of hacking your own neural network.
Exactly. And the last technique is engaging in subconscious learning. They use examples like Einstein taking walks and Tesla visualizing his inventions.
So it's about letting your mind wander and make connections in the background.
Right. You expose yourself to information and then you step away and let your subconscious work on it.
Like sleeping on a problem.
Exactly. Sometimes the best ideas come when you're not even trying.
Yeah, when you let your mind relax and make those unexpected connections.
Okay, so this is where the video takes a bit of a turn into conspiracy land.
Oh, buckle up.
They start talking about this hidden reason why this hack isn't common knowledge, and they're suggesting that it's because a society full of geniuses would be impossible to control.
So they're saying someone is keeping this knowledge from us.
Right. They're saying there are these powerful groups, governments, corporations, the media, they benefit from having a population that's predictable and obedient.
Okay, so if everyone was a genius, society would collapse.
That's what they're saying. And they even suggest that the smartest people in the world, they already know about this hack. And they're using it to stay ahead.
So it's like a secret society controlling the flow of information.
Exact. It's pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, we're getting deep into conspiracy territory here.
I know, right? Okay, but let's shift gears a bit. The video then goes on to talk about the true power of thought. And they're saying that our minds, they don't just process information, they actually create and shape reality.
Whoa, that's a big...
I know, right? They're saying that intelligent people, they use their minds to actually influence the world around them.
So our thoughts have power.
That's what they're saying. They use this analogy of the brain being like an antenna sending and receiving signals.
So we're transmitting our thoughts out into the world.
Yeah, and they bring up visualization, affirmations, the power of belief, and they're presenting them as scientifically proven ways to rewire your subconscious and get what you want.
Okay, so if you believe it strongly enough, it will happen.
That's the idea. They contrast this limited way of thinking with a more expansive mindset, one that sees opportunities that other people miss.
So it's about seeing the possibilities.
Exactly. They're saying intelligence is about using your mind as a tool to actively shape your experiences.
Okay, so it's not just about thinking, it's about doing.
Right. Now, they talk about this concept of mental blocks, and they describe them as these deep-seated limiting beliefs we have about our own intelligence, our ability, our potential for success.
So these are the things that hold us back.
Exactly. And they say we might not even be aware of these beliefs.
So they're operating in the background.
Right. And they give examples like believing you're not a math person, which then makes you avoid any opportunity to learn math, or believing that real intelligence is this rare gift, so you don't even try to push your own mental limits.
Yeah, we all have those limiting beliefs.
They say to break free, you have to question where these beliefs came from and then actively work to reprogram.
So it's about challenging those negative thoughts.
Exactly. And what's the supposed payoff of this reprogramming? They say your mind starts working in these unexpected and more powerful ways. Those mental barriers disappear, and you experience this rapid increase in your ability to understand complex ideas and solve tough problems.
So it's like leveling up your brain.
I know, right? It sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah. It does. It's like you're unlocking your full potential.
Okay. Last but not least, the video gets into how to train your brain like a genius. And they use this analogy of physical fitness. They're saying, just like you challenge your muscles to make them stronger, you need to challenge your brain to boost its cognitive power.
So it's like mental weightlifting.
Right. They're saying intelligence isn't something you just passively have. It's something you have to actively develop.
It's a process of continuous learning.
Exactly. And they criticize how many people live on mental autopilot, stuck in these repetitive repetitive thought patterns, consuming the same information.
Yes, scrolling through social media all day long.
Right. They say, in contrast, geniuses, they push their cognitive boundaries, they learn new skills, they explore unfamiliar ideas, they challenge their own assumptions.
They're constantly seeking out new challenges.
Yes. And they give some concrete suggestions for accelerating intelligence, like embrace intellectual discomfort, read really thought-provoking books, tackle those seemingly impossible problems, venture into fields you know nothing about.
So it's about getting out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. The message is intelligence is built through constantly expanding and challenging yourself.
Like stretching your mental muscles.
Right. And now for the grand finale, the video's final warning. It basically says you've got two choices. You can ignore all of this and keep thinking the way you always have. Or you take the leap and start applying this banned brain hack.
So it's a red pill, blue pill situation.
I know, right? They make it sound like a huge decision, like you're either staying with the 99%
or joining the elite 1%.
Exactly. And for those who choose to take the red pill, they quickly lay out the key step. Train your brain to think in patterns, activate that subconscious intelligence, and break free from those mental limitations you've been carrying around.
So it's a call to action.
Yes. And they end on this really inspiring note. Genius isn't something you're born with. It's something you awaken within yourself.
I like that it's empowering.
Right. Even if some of their claims are a little out there, it's still a pretty optimistic message.
Yeah, it's about taking control of your own cognitive development.
So I want to leave you with this question. In what ways might the belief that intelligence is fixed be holding you back? What if you could push past those limits? What if you could actually become smarter? What's one small step you could take today to challenge that belief? Maybe read a book on a topic you know nothing about. Maybe spend a few minutes trying to connect to seemingly unrelated ideas.
Maybe take a walk and let your subconscious do the work.
Exactly. Maybe that's the first step to unlocking that potential. The Quantum Wisdom video talks about secret hack or not.
You know, it's all about cultivating that curiosity, that willingness to learn and grow, and the very act of questioning what you believe about intelligence. Yeah. That's a powerful step in itself.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I try.
You do. You definitely do.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure.
Until next time, keep those brains firing.
And those connections forming.
See you later.